In the magical words of Professor Farnsworth, good news, everyone. New Liberal MPs have been deciding to turn on Trudeau, at least in the idea of where he's treating this pandemic and the little to no solutions he has in his mind. Because let's face it, he hasn't had any solutions whatsoever this entire time except a solution for adding extra commas to his bank account. The first one was Joel Lightbound. So Joel Lightbound actually did a speech earlier this week. I actually think this would have been yesterday about the pandemic and how it's being handled and the demonstrators. But he's still on the side of like the liberals when it comes to the protesters. So I've kind of skipped that portion because it's all the same nonsense that being peddled by big news outlets. But this portion of the speech is fairly important, so I figured we would watch it together. So why not? Here we go. Enjoy.
They're confused when they see countries around the world like Ireland, Sweden, Norway, Switzerland, the Czech Republic, Israel, Denmark, Spain, and the UK, who have either dropped almost all restrictions or are fast moving in that direction. All countries, I note, with lower vaccination rates than us. Now, while folks are hearing and seeing all of this, they're left rightfully wondering, where the hell are we heading here in Canada?
Fantastic
I
question.
think there lies the frustration. They feel there is no appetite from our government to adapt so as to reflect the changing data and the changing reality of the pandemic and of the world.
I just want to interrupt right here because he said specifically that our government doesn't seem to have an appetite to follow these other countries based on the data, right? There's a reason for that, and it's literally just money. The reason for not wanting to change this is because the rich get richer during this entire situation. And then the poorer the rest of society gets, the more dependent they become on the government. Why would the government take this opportunity that has just been handed to them on a silver platter and just be like, nah, I don't want total control? Have you ever seen a government not want total control? I mean, I know I haven't. So let's just see what he has to say about. I think he does mention Trudeau in this part as well, but I just want to see what else he has to say about this.
They're worried that measures which ought to be exceptional and limited in time are being normalized with no end in sight, like vaccine passports, mandates, and requirements for travelers. They're worried because they feel it is becoming harder and harder to know where public health stops and where politics begins. Now, I firmly believe governments would do well not to dismiss these legitimate concerns and not to demonize those who voice them. To the contrary, I believe these concerns need to be addressed head on, and here are some ways I humbly submit we could go about it. First, I believe the government should provide quickly a roadmap with clear and measurable targets to lift all restrictions within its purview. To be clear, I do not necessarily believe that all measures should be lifted immediately, but I do believe that we must have a clear and measurable benchmark for when measures will be lifted. For instance, at what point can we lift restrictions while respecting the capacity of the province's healthcare systems? Second, I believe that if more and more Canadians find it hard to comply with the restrictions, it's not because they lack solidarity. It's because increasingly Canadians don't understand the measures, and they don't understand them because governments no longer care to explain them. It's a lot easier to comply when you understand, particularly when these restrictions impact your day-to-day life. The vaccine requirement for truckers, to me, is a good example. And if we forget about the demonstrations and we forget about the convoy for just a second and look at that policy for what it is. This is a policy that now goes against the World Health Organization's recommendation, and for which no epidemiological studies and projections have been provided. Meanwhile, the industry is clear. When this measure took effect, the price of transport for fresh products from the United States went up by 15 to 20% on average. Now, I understand there are many factors contributing to inflation, but inflation happens over time, not overnight.
I'm just going to end this portion here, mainly because I don't believe this is where he actually physically rebukes Justin Trudeau, more so he rebukes his ideals. But still, the way he is saying these things is, he's still saying it in the standard wording of a liberal, but if you were to translate it to pure English, it's, we need to know when these mandates are going to be over. We need to know the plan, not just keep getting vaccinated, because vaccinations aren't a plan anymore. They're just a product being shilled by the government. That's literally all it is. It's no longer a plan. But ever since this happened, as of today, another person has decided to start turning on Trudeau for the same reasons. We have it here. What was his name? His name was Yves Robillard. Yves Robillard has decided that he agrees completely with Lightfoot. And he even says it right here. As other liberals criticize the timing of Lightbound's remarks. Why do I keep saying Lightfoot? That's the mayor in Chicago, which is also in a bloody mess. Lightbound of Lightbound's remarks. Quebec MP Yves Robillard told the Hill Times he agrees with everything that Lightbound said and that many liberals have had enough. And he's not wrong. There's so many people that have already just been like, we need to end this. Just end it. End it. Just end the mandates. There's no reason for them. There really isn't. And it's just been so interesting to see that more people are waking up, more people are getting away from this entire thing and just trying their best to survive. And Trudeau himself is such a coward as well, because I think the day this speech happened, it might have been earlier in the day, he ended up walking out of Parliament. In the weirdest way possible. He was asked very simple questions that even a toddler could probably answer, and he started crying and walked away.
Canada's Prime Minister is pandering to politics by division, stoking anger and fear. The rhetoric he used towards those Canadians who support lifting the mandate adds fuel to the fire. These are not the actions of a Prime Minister. A senior member of the Liberal caucus has publicly criticized his tone, his language, and his approach to the pandemic. Will the Prime Minister act like a Prime Minister? Will he listen to the opposition, listen to his own caucus? Will he listen to Canadians? Or will he continue with this divisive rhetoric?
I just want to pause it right there. That is basically what Twitter has been saying to Trudeau for all of 2022. All of this Freedom Trucker thing. These are the exact same words that have been sent to him millions of times. And he still somehow found a way to hide in his bunker and avoid answering anything. If there's one thing I will say about Trudeau, he's very good at speaking, except he says nothing. From all those words, it all amounts to nothing. It's all just jibber jabber. But let's continue, why don't we?
Minister of Public Safety.
Beginning of the pandemic, our government has been laying out with great transparency what we believe is the best way out of this pandemic, and that's vaccinations. And I want to give credit to the 90% of Canadians who've taken up that cause, the 90% of truckers who've taken up the cause of vaccinations to ensure that the wheels of our economy continue to turn. As for those who are outside, Mr. Speaker, this government is working very closely with the City of Ottawa to provide the police all of the tools and the resources that they need to end this convoy as quickly and as peacefully as possible. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
This is problematic because you can see that that woman in the back is just nodding her head. Do you think she heard a word that he said? Absolutely fucking not. I don't think any of these people in this side of the room even knew what he said. None of them seem to be clapping or in any kind of emotional state other than, oh God, we're on camera. He's saying a speech that's stupid. Oh God, we're going to be associated with the dumbass. And that's essentially what's going to happen. So after he made this rousing speech, it is now time for the Conservatives to go again. And this is what happens.
Member for Foothills.
Canadians, including a senior member.
I think I just saw Trudeau get up. You can actually see him get up behind me. Oh shit. How do I get out of the way? Oh, no. All right, you might be able to see him pop into the screen right where I was supposed to be, and that is him getting up and walking away. I never noticed that before, but I now you can see
Mr.
it.
Speaker.
Member for Foothills.
There he is.
Canadians,
Yeah, he got up and walked away.
Senior member of the Liberal caucus.
Trudeau walked out, refusing to listen to the question. Standard Trudeau. Boo! Boo that man!
I'm going to have to ask the honourable member for Foothills to stop while his members on his side are heckling him. So I'll let him continue now.
Even the House Speaker's just like, fuck. This is hilarious.
Canadians, including senior members of the Liberal caucus, are speaking loud and clear. Canadians are looking for pandemic leadership. Canadians are standing up right now, grabbing this moment in our history, because they know there is something fundamentally wrong when a Prime Minister refuses to listen. Countries around the world are changing direction, but here in Canada, our Prime Minister resorts to playground antics and calling names. If ever there was a time for inspired leadership, it is now. Will the Prime Minister grow up? Will he do his job? Will he listen to Canadians?
Fantastic speech. Absolutely fantastic. But the only problem is we know that Trudeau will not listen. There's not a chance in the world that he'll actually listen. He will continue doing this until he's backed so far into a corner, he'll have no choice but to give a little to have a chance to sneak through. So we cannot end any of this stuff until the mandates are permanently gone. Not a roadmap, permanently gone. Because if we give an inch, they will take a mile. And if we give them that little bit of time for them to work through getting rid of the mandates, that will get extended, and it'll get extended, and it'll get extended. Does everybody remember the famous line, 2 weeks to flatten the curve? Yeah, they'll take the time like that. They'll extend it so far that it won't even seem like they had kept any of their promises. So, we've got to keep pushing, we got to still keep united, and we've got to make sure that Trudeau knows nobody fucking likes him anymore. He's the biggest idiot to ever take office in Canada. Nobody likes him. And the only ones that do sound a bit like this. Bah, bah. I hope you understood that, his followers. Have a wonderful day, guys. Love you. Bye.